Here comes aim!
You know, there should be truth in reporting, there should be truth in taxation, there should be truth in government. But, you know, sometimes they fall a little short in presenting things as they really are. I'm pleased to welcome back to the Schilling Show. He's the chair of ADA, the Albemarle Truth in Taxation Alliance. We're talking today about truth in county finance reporting. And my goodness, this game goes on and on and on. And if it weren't for the Truth in Taxation Alliance and some of the research that have been done by Pete Witt and some of the others in your organization, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Jim Stern, welcome to the Schilling Show.
How are you?
Okay, so let's talk about what's going on here, because as we talked about before the break, the headline, big, bold letters, county expects $1 million shortfall. And, of course, the sky is falling and there's panic, and the people who are inclined to raise taxes on the Board of Supervisors immediately seek shelter in a headline like this and start planning and scheming on how they can milk more money out of taxpayers.
A few days ago, I was getting ready to send out my first newsletter as the new chairman, only a few weeks in this position. I was called by Pete Witt, who attends every single Board of Supervisors meeting, was there yesterday from 9 until 6 o'clock.
Wow.
And reads every single document. And he called me up and he said, there's some great news out here. Go ahead and take a look at this. And printed it off the web, where he told me it's from the agenda of the Board of Supervisors meeting of the 5th of October. And there's get the exact number here, but about a $10 million surplus.
It's like 9.3, something like that. Okay,
yes,
all right,
yes.
but close to $10 million.
$10 million.
Wait a minute. I want you to. I'm going to recite the headline here, and then I'm going to have you read that number again. Here's the headline in the daily newspaper on Tuesday, October 4th. County expects $1 million shortfall. Revenue decline could mean less funding for area schools. Now, please bring us the information that was not reported.
Mr. Foley's office says this report projects the fiscal year will end with a $9.932 million of revenues in excess of expenditures.
A $10 million surplus in Albemarle County, and we're talking about a $1 million shortfall for next year and the following year. That's $2 million. Seems to me that leaves about $8 million in play money.
It sure does. It sure does. And what we were going to congratulate the entire county office building, everybody that works in every department. You look line by line in the details here, and we asked these people to tighten their belts. Times are tough, and they did. You look, every department went through here. Let's see, administrative expenditures saved $500,000, judicial $150,000, public safety $100,000, general services $500,000, human services $1.6 million. These people did what we asked them to do and tightened their belts. And it would have been nice to send out that newsletter saying, thank you guys for doing what you needed to do and helping everybody in this community. Then the next day, the newspaper hits the driveway, and what's on the front page? $1 million shortfall. And I was like, uh-oh, did Pete get it wrong? Pete didn't get it wrong. It was buried in the agenda, the good news, yet in the full agenda that was discussed yesterday, the bad news was on a separate page. We only discussed the bad news in public.
Yeah, this was in the consent agenda, which is at the top of the meeting and never discussed publically.
Correct.
Is that correct?
The good news was in the consent agenda, which wasn't discussed. It's there, but it's not discussed. In the regular agenda, item 19, there'll be a revenue shortfall next year of approximately $1.07 million, which is only 0.5% of the county's budget. Yeah. In addition, for 12-13 the next year, an additional $1.02 million shortfall.
Okay, so here's the game, and I saw it played every single year in the city of Charlottesville during my service because they were running surpluses every year. I don't know what the numbers are in the county, but in the city of Charlottesville, there have been over $50 million in surpluses over the past 10 years and maybe more than that. And so every year, they don't use the word surplus. They call them fund balances. They downplay the whole thing. They never talk about it in totality. And then they come up with a way to dispense of these funds every year outside of the normal budget process. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to watch for it in the county, because they'll come back and say, well, we have all these number of needs, and then the money gets doled out and voted on by the governing board, and it evaporates. And this is wrong because it's outside of the budget process. It's never discussed in the context of the upcoming budget, and that needs to stop. And I'm so glad that ADA has brought this out publicly.
Well, and each year the schools carry $4 to $7 million each for the last 3 or 4 years. $4 to $7 million, and not a surplus, but it is a surplus.
Yes.
Yet we tell our teachers that they can't have a raise, or they're getting a tiny little raise. We hide the money, don't give them raises, and cause a panic, and then the money was there to give these people raises. We can't hire police officers because there's no money. Yet we have a $10 million leftover amount. And last year, of course, you know that Dennis Rooker and Ann Malik were saying, let's add a penny onto the real estate to build up a fund. That would have been an extra $1.3 million in excess on top of this $10 million that's hidden away.
This is really problematic, and we're talking with Jim Stern. He's the chair of the Albemarle Truth in Taxation Alliance, Truth in County Finance Reporting. And so we had this press release coming out, and the county essentially, Lee Catlin from the county, speaking extensively to Samantha Kuhn about the county expecting $1 million shortfall. Was the word surplus, I know Pete was at the meeting, was the word surplus ever used at this meeting, or was this point brought out in any of the recent county meetings that there is leftover funds in the amount of $9.93 million in Albemarle County?
And we'd have to have Pete to get the exact things. But Pete told me last night that he went and they did not discuss anything but the shortfalls in the meeting. And then during the public speaking part, a number of people, he's a speaker about 35, and everybody before was talking about the bypass. And he got up there and he said, I just wanted to thank you all for this surplus. And that was the first time when it came out of his mouth, was the first time it was mentioned at the meeting.
And was there any response to that or any discussion following?
There's no interaction during
the so that just it came and went. But you know what's troubling is that there seems to be a deliberate effort on behalf of county staff or whoever is in charge of disseminating this information and reporting it to leave this out. I sent an email to Ken Boyd this morning, and I sent you a copy of his response to me, basically asking him, was there in fact a surplus left over at the end of last year in the amount of $9.93 million? And he said yes, and he went on to say that, in fact, he brought this up to the press, but they didn't report it.
Right. And I don't know whether this new reporter that we don't know asked the right questions, and so we can't hold her responsible. But Lee Catlin certainly knew that there was a $10 million surplus in one hand, as she's talking about the $1 million shortfall in the other hand, and why that wasn't said. And maybe it was, and the reporter didn't report it, but I've got a feeling it wasn't said at all.